waited on him for a message. And I said, Lord, if this is what you want me to say, then let me say it. And I spoke at Don's place on Thursday, and I said to the people, I said to Don, never ever worry about what you say in the presence of the Lord. Who's judging your word? Who feels like getting up from the congregation and throttling you? If God said it, you hold no punches. And I wasn't giving him license to be risque in the way he handled his life. I know him too well for him not to be that kind of gentleman. In fact, I've learned quite a bit of his character that I really marvel. And I want to use some of those examples this morning to see if it can rub off onto some of you. Some very good characteristics. And I thank God for your upbringing. And may I even make mention that that your role model, when Paul was writing about Timothy, he says, Timothy, I thank your mother and your grandmother. Well, I don't know who to thank in your state today, but I'm very led to believe that whoever made an impact has made a great impact. And so you will see and you'll hear more, Brother Don, from this pulpit, because I believe he has his heart in the right place and he will be able to share God's word. Then we had a nice word on his grandfather. Okay, thank you, Patricia. Thank you, grandfather. But you'll see what I'm saying in a few minutes. So I got this message, and I started to put words onto my iPad and on my computer first, and I could not understand where was I going with this thing. And when I preach a message, I always like to see faces in front of me, so I can preach at somebody. So I can be nasty to somebody. No, I don't mean that. So I can empathize with somebody. That in preaching this message, God would take you from one level of just being ordinary to extraordinary. And so I felt like I was writing another thesis this morning, and you'll hear it come out in the context of this message. I'd like to go there quickly. If you can go to John chapter 11, verse 1 to 27. There's lots of reading, but I'm going to read here and there. Okay, so I want you to get the entire story. John chapter 11, verse 1 to 27. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, of the village of Mary and her sister Martha. And it was that Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. The sisters therefore sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, him whom thou lovest is sick. But when Jesus heard it, he said, this sickness is not unto death. This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When therefore he heard that he was sick, I want you to take note of that verse 6. When therefore he had heard that he was sick, he abode at that time 2 days in the place where he was. Not where Lazarus was, but where he was. Let me stop here 1 second. Guys, I want you to listen carefully. Brother Don intimated last week, saying that if he had only known that this was such a challenging job, he himself would have stuck to music. But herein lies why I'm stopping it right here. If you are not listening and taking in what I'm saying this morning, then you come to beat somebody here. You come for another purpose. You come for another plan. I'm saying this to every one of you. Even if you refuse to lift your hand and give praise to God this morning, at least I want you to listen to this word. It's going to change your life. Verse 7. Then after this he said to the disciples, let us go into Judea again. The disciples saying unto him, Rabbi, the Jews were but now seeking to stone thee, and goest thou thither again? Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If a man walketh in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because the light is not with him, not in him. These things spake he, and after this he said unto them, our friend Lazarus is fallen asleep. Do you see anything about dead there? Our friend Lazarus is fallen asleep, but I go that I may awake him out of his sleep. The disciples therefore said unto him, Lord, if he is fallen asleep, he will recover. This is not rocket science. If he's sleeping, you shake him, he'll wake up. Now Jesus had spoken of his death. There's the word death. But they thought that he spoke of taking rest in sleep. Then Jesus therefore said unto them plainly, as if these people had no common sense, Lazarus is dead. And I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent ye may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. 16. Thomas, no, where am I? Why didn't it switch there? Okay, right, so yeah, that's fine. Thomas, therefore, who is called Didymus, said unto his fellow disciples, let us also go. Sorry, I was wondering how Thomas had a hand in this. That we may die with him. I want you to see this part. That we may die with him. So when Jesus came, he found that he had been in the tomb. I want you to underline the word 4. 4 days already. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off. And many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. Martha, therefore, when she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him. But Mary still sat in the house. Martha therefore said unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. Let's move on. And even now I know that whatsoever that thou shalt ask of God, God will give thee. Jesus said unto her, thy brother shall rise again. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said unto her, I am that resurrection and the life. He that believeth on me, though he die, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth on me shall never die. Believest thou this? Did you just get this message? She said unto him, yeah, Lord. I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, even he that cometh into the world. Now, you can go home and pursue the reading of this word, and try and come to some understanding of how God raised Lazarus from the dead. But this morning, I want to start with an introduction, and I'm going to start saying this morning. The news of someone passing away always brings with it shock, dismay, grief, and emptiness. Death is never welcome, never victorious, and certainly not celebrated. No one is really ever, listen carefully, no one is ever adequately prepared for death. And this is meant for both the person dying and the person receiving the news of death. On the contrary, the elephant in the room overshadows all reasonable thought. Just try and put yourself in a home of where somebody's just passed away. The biggest elephant in that room overshadows all reasonable thoughts. People are running around and making hasty decisions. People are trying to make sure that this occasion passes away as soon as possible. It throws our theology out the window. And you'll come to know why just now. And the only thing that we do naturally, and go to any household where there's a funeral, is we do the following. We speculate, we estimate, we postulate, we emasculate, and we gesticulate. Now that sounds like a complete dictionary its own. But the reason I chose these words this morning is I want you to know, I'll explain what they mean as we go along for those of you that obviously don't know it. We speculate all the time. How did this thing happen? In fact, we go ask people and we make a theory of how this person has died. In fact, those that have just died with just normal conditions, we still have to find a story. He didn't die through old age. Must have died through AIDS. Or we speculate of how this person has passed on. We estimate the time of his death. We're not just concerned the man died. We have to find the exact time he died. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, but I personally have been there as a minister. One of our most dearest widows in the church, for me the greatest tithe payer, she passed on in the wee hours of the morning, and I was called to go there and obviously start performing the rites. I got there and I had the very awkward situation of being able, I stood there myself wondering, did she actually die? Because when I got there, body was still warm. There was no real pulse. So I stood there, I tried to look. These people said she's gone. And I stood there and I'm saying, I'm not sure. And you know how scary that situation is, because I'm supposed to be very sure of myself. And I'm one of those people that are very sure myself, even if I say it on my own. But there was one time that I was second guessing. The blood of a burst ulcer was already starting to come up and started to fall out of the mouth. And I stood there and said, Lord, hallelujah. Do I call the undertakers to come and take a body? Do we pronounce it dead? We get a doctor? And it was not even a few minutes later, the body had turned ice cold. The entire body became stiff. I said, thank God. Because it was in such a precarious place to be in. And you can imagine how I was speculating. I was trying to estimate when she died. And I was trying to postulate. I have a theory. I think she's dead. Postulate is making assumptions. And I said, I used the word emasculate. Somebody in the congregation could be in that place, in that household at that time, looking at the quandary on my face. They could have emasculated me. How come this pastor doesn't know the person is living or dead? We know he's dead, but you can see he's second guessing. So we take that position, and we all take positions. And you can cast your mind as far back, some of you that have just had some dear loved ones pass on just so recently. But think about the position you took. And we gesticulate, that means we show some body movements, we show some gestures, we either respect that the person has died, or we don't show any respect for the dead. And our body movements say, take a position in the passing on of our loved ones. But why did I say all of that? I want to introduce you to what I entitled this message, and I want you to know that the real title is, When He Was Meets I Am. When He Was Meets I Am. That's the title. But my first title, my original title, was this part that I'm giving you now. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. And I'll tell you where I'm taking that title from. I don't know why it came into my memory, but there was a perfect reason for that this morning when I started to put these things and understand the gloriousness of God's wisdom. I'd like for us to start the first point that I want to give you this morning. There is considerably more than what meets the eye to Lazarus' story. I said to you that there's a fair amount of emasculation, character assassination, doing things to bring somebody's personality down. And Mary didn't waste time in doing this. Have you ever been asked an awkward question at a funeral? And the worst is at an Indian funeral. This is the worst. Because you've got a bunch of wailers at the coffin side. These are professionals. In fact, families hire them. Because they make the funeral a little more dramatic. And the next thing is, the most awkward of things is that when people just set foot into that door, and this bunch of wailers will start to, some of them will even embarrass you. Some of them will say stuff that you wish they never said it in public. some of you are laughing, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I, at one stage, went to one funeral where they asked, but where were you? That is one time you just learn to shut your mouth and never open it. Because anything you say will be held against you. And this is not in the court of law. You've been tried, you've been sentenced by this tribunal that sits around the coffin. Your character is assassinated. And Mary accuses Jesus of allowing a brother to die unnecessarily. And the bystanders said, they sort of cottoned onto this thing, and they said, could this man, in verse 37, let's read 32 first. 11, John 11. Mary, therefore, when she came where Jesus was and saw him, fell down on his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother would have not died. Emasculated. Made him feel this way. Verse 37, this is what he says. This is what the public is saying. But some of them said, could not this man who opened the eyes of him that was blind have caused this man also should not die? How many of you spotted the coulda, shoulda, or woulda? Would Christ been here, would Christ been here, this man should have never died. John 11, chapter 21. Martha therefore said unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. And so we stand here at this funeral and we look at the pitiful state of the beloved of this household. Look at where they're at. Look at their thoughts running away from them. And I actually subtitle this shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's because when you look at every one of our cries at that time. I have a cousin who's just lost his dad. My uncle was called to rest, doing what he loved to do, and that was he supported his favorite team. So he went to he went to the UK, and he went to watch this game, and he didn't come back. But my cousin sat there and still sits there in the space where the coulda, the woulda, the shoulda is keep on coming back to haunt. What is he saying? If I could have not taken him, he would have never died. And my answer to that, if you should have never taken your father, he would have never seen the inside of Anfield. He would have never gone further past the end of his nose. If you understand where I'm going. But you sit there and you stew in the fact that you may be responsible for your father's death is undue punishment that anybody should ever go through. Whilst on the other hand, we have those that actually have done nothing. Remember the guy I spoke about reading his will and didn't get anything at the end of the will, but his expectation was he will be mentioned in the will, and the guy does mention him, that he's not giving him anything. There are some of those people that live on the face of the earth, and they are there. And you know what they're doing? Every day of their life is a woulda, shoulda, coulda moment. And I'm saying to you, church, I'm going to get to the theology just now. But let me embrace the relative situation right now, your situation. There's some of you that God is speaking to today are living life in the woulda, coulda, shoulda. And I wish that you could have moved from woulda, coulda, shoulda to didda. If this message does not make you sit up straight and understand that death is real, that whatever you needed to do for somebody, that you should have done it ages ago, woulda, shoulda, coulda, would never do it up until now. But this message will move you to do it. There is coming a time when it is too late, sitting at the coffin of somebody that has passed on and said, but Grandma, I could have bought you a chocolate. But you know I didn't have enough money, my own money. I had only money to buy it. The wife came back, let me just break this very somber message. The wife came back from shopping and she was really coming with this, you know, they give you these fancy packets when you go to a boutique. I think the packets are worth more than some of the items that are there. So she comes back and she's bought this entire shopping bag and she's really chuffed with herself. And she says to her husband, man, can you believe what a bargain I got? And the husband says, yeah, I got a message on my phone that you spent my credit card. But what? What did you buy? The wife takes this thing and she flaunts it. She says, man, look at this dress. This is exactly what I've been. He says, have you lost your mind? Can you pay so much for this dress? Come on, ladies. You know what I'm talking about. Can you pay so much for this dress? Are you crazy? She says, man, I went to the dressing room, tried it on, it was so good. She said, I could not resist the temptation. She says, but you've been listening to Pastor every week, the husband says. And what does Pastor tell you when you come through this kind of temptation? You must say, Satan, get thee behind me. And she said, you know what? It's funny that you say that. I said that exactly. And guess what this fellow said? The same guy, Lucifer, that program Lucifer, in that gayish voice, he turned around and he says, hey, you look good from the back as well. Matthew Henry wrote this in his commentary on this particular portion of scripture. And I thought I'll share this with you. He loved them. That means Jesus loved these sisters and Lazarus. He loved them, yet he lingered. That means he did not hasten to go to them. When they told him Lazarus died on the first instance, he did not go. So this is what Matthew Henry wrote. He says, he loved them, yet he lingered. But he loved them, therefore he lingered. Now you'll see this come together in this message. When I wrote these things down, man, I was just all over the place with my thoughts. And the Lord just so wonderfully directed my thoughts. He loved them, yet he lingered. But he loved them, and therefore he lingered. Coming back to the title of my message, when the he was meets the I am. And so when we get into this message proper, before we get into it proper, shall I tell you where I just stole my subtitle from? Comes from Brian McKnight. But listen to this. One of his songs said, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Hear the words of one of the passages. Should have been a better man. Men, sorry. Should have been a better man. The kind of man that you needed. Would have been better off if I had done right by you. I could have done this. I could have done that. But I know I can't go back. Because now it's just too late. I'm saying, shoulda, woulda, coulda, yeah. But I thought this was over. I thought I had a momentary lapse of any good thinking until I read this. Beverly Knight wrote also a song, said shoulda, woulda, and she said shoulda, woulda, coulda are the last words of a fool. But I think that tops everything. That tops everything. And I couldn't understand why the Lord wanted me to go into the secular world to try and get some semblance of where I wanted to go with this message. But I've always wondered, and I've pondered over this so deeply, why is death so painful? I'm going to throw a few things. Why is death so painful? Is it that we were told in advance that every one of us are destined to die? That we've even obliterated the latter part just for our own excuse? That part didn't matter. The only thing that we remembered was, it is appointed for man once to die. I feel like I'm speaking at a funeral service this morning. But there's a fair amount of truth in what I'm saying this morning. Did we naturally forget that we were going to die anyway? Why do we still cry so much? It's as if we've forgotten. We all know, we've been warned before that we're going to die. But yet we cry. We shed buckets and buckets of tears. Have we forgotten? And it's always plagued my mind. But here's a very interesting thought that comes from John chapter 12, verse 24. Well, I want you to ponder over these words. It says, verily, verily, that means truly, truly, I say unto you, except a grain of wheat fall into the earth and die. It abideth by itself alone, but if it die, it beareth much fruit. And you know you've done pollination and cross-pollination at school. And you realize that the bees have such great importance in the pollination process, right? And so you realize that once this kernel of wheat falls to the ground, only when it falls to the ground can it have its true meaning. But when it exists as a kernel of wheat, it stands alone. Its purpose is served in just it being alone. But when it falls to the ground, its true purpose starts its life. Some of you are getting hell-bent with losing some loved ones, and you are stuck in this place and you have never ever moved on. And I say to you this morning that seed fell to the ground, and there was a purpose for it to fall to the ground, that it may bring forth a forest. That life of Lazarus had to come to an end so that the ministry of Jesus could be exemplified. When the He was, which is Lazarus, met the I am, which is Jesus Christ, the resurrective power of Jesus comes to the fore. And that is when you know that God is amongst you. Church, don't you ever sell yourself short, and know that even the world knows this common saying that says no man is an island. You don't exist on the face of the earth selfishly and narcissistically that you think that the entire world revolves around you. In the meantime, you just abide by yourself and nobody will take notice of your good work. But the day you die to yourself is the day you will live eternally. And we've missed the mark. We coulda, shoulda, woulda, every other thing. Some of you are waiting for a place where you want something great to happen before you will make the next step. Right now, today is the day that you will take cognizance of why God placed you on the face of the earth, in order that He may take you to greatness. There's a few facts that I want to share about death this morning that I found quite interesting. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27. Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27. That's the scripture I shared with you earlier. And inasmuch as it is appointed unto men once to die, and after this cometh judgment. So the first fact is that every one of us are going to die. Hello? Who's beyond that? Who's not included in that every one of us? Any Supermans here? No? So knowing these facts helps us to understand, and it sort of helps us to prepare for death. The first thing that I want to share with you as we break this up is it is appointed. Do you see the word appointed? That means every one of you has got a date. You've been given a number. And some of you live life as if, man, you didn't receive the memo. Your chain was never jacked. You're just living it aimlessly. The Bible says it is appointed. Everyone. You are now, you will become a was. sooner. Then later, some of us, sorry. So, death is unavoidable. It must be stating the obvious when we tell people. But when we look at people, the way they cry and the way they mourn death, it's as if like it's a brand new concept. It's going to happen. The funny part is, and maybe you didn't know this, you have a thing called birth control. Has anybody ever figured out death control yet? I think you'd be a rich man or a woman. We have not. There's no ways we could contain it. Okay, there's my cue. I'm just getting to the interesting part. Ecclesiastes chapter, I'm going to read 2 scriptures and I'm done. But we'll continue next week, can we? Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 6. And I feel like I woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's how I feel. Before the silver cord is loosed, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is broken at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern. Just go to the next verse. Sorry, go there. And the dust returned to the earth as it was, and the spirit returned unto God who gave it. I like that expression. When the golden cord or the silver cord is let loose. When your life, it's a nice way of saying when your life is no more. When we come to that place, when our name is called and our number is drawn like somebody who just ran a lucky ticket draw. When the time comes, we have no option but to go. Psalms 90, verse 9 to 10. This is the last scripture I share with you today. Until we meet next week. Because I want to now expound on the he was versus the I am. I want to take that to another level, but I thought, let me give you the fluffy stuff first. Are you learning something this morning? Is something changing? I heard something break. Hopefully it has. For all our days are passed away in thy wrath. We bring our years to an end as a sigh. The days of our years are 80 years and 10. Or even by the reason of strength, 80 years. Yet it is their pride, but labor and sorrow, for it is soon gone, and we fly away. So it's my time to bounce. Would you bow your heads and close your eyes? Okay, I mean it seriously this morning. Would you really bow your heads and close your eyes? Would you understand that the most important thing, that whilst death is unavoidable, so is a resurrected life made possible for every one of us. We cry as if we don't have a promise. We weep as if nobody told us about what's to come after this death that we go through once. And we live like we're going to die forever. whilst you took the opportunity in this few moments of the pause that I made, would you just get to a place where you would say, Lord, my woulda, coulda, shoulda, Lord, does not ever come to a realization until you make it possible in our lives. Would you touch, Lord, somebody sitting close to me, somebody sitting in this church? If it's not me that's, Lord, that's sitting in the point of need, but won't you touch somebody? Won't you make this a reality? That living life in this manner, Lord, is haphazard. And as we heard Beverly Knight say, Lord, that it's only the words of a fool. Because what we could, help us, Lord, to make it happen. What we should, Lord, make it happen to be a reality. And Lord, this day, make it, Lord, that we stay in the hall of your hands. That when we discuss the passing away of Lazarus, we see it, Lord, to exemplify that you are the I am. We don't see it, Lord, glorifying Lazarus walking out of a tomb. But we see it, Lord, as death being cheated in order, Lord, that its power may be loosed. And whilst, Lord, he enjoyed extra time on the face of the earth, we can have eternity with you this morning through this message. Father, bless everyone, those that are prepared for death and those that are not. Prepare us, Lord, to know that our saving grace is that you are the I am. Because you live, we live also, said your word. Make us believers this morning as we take this word and run with it, Lord. As we shout it from the rooftops, we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. One thing that I didn't share with you this morning is for those of you who didn't know that there was athletics in the Bible, you would know that Lazarus came forth. On that note, I'm going to